Hello and a very warm welcome to you all. My name is Sophie Devonshire and I'm the Chief Executive of the Marketing Society. One of the things that I most enjoy about being part of this incredible global network of progressive marketing leaders is where we bring together people to discuss some of the most challenging topics facing marketing leaders today. As a community, when we come together, when we connect, when we have conversations, it helps us to be braver and more brilliant at what we do. When we come together, we can help each other do well in our careers and our lives. And together, we can also do good in our businesses, in society, and the world. Sometimes the conversations we have and the topics we cover include people sharing their personal perspectives on what they're struggling with, or how they've had success, sharing their personal stories. Other times we like to bring in perspectives from people who've been looking at a very specific topic to help stimulate our conversation. And today we've teamed up with our friends at LANDOR and Fitch for the second in a mini-series looking at some of the critical questions around this fascinating topic of sustainability. Last week, we were in the Middle East, where we invited a couple of great marketing leaders to talk about how they were approaching sustainability in marketing and to have a discussion around that. Today, we're basing this from London, and our conversation starts with some food for thought for marketers on how sustainability can be more than just a game of compliance, but actually potentially can also become a competitive advantage. Many marketing leaders at the moment are looking at their plans and are curious about how to set themselves apart from the crowd and how to create marketing that's good for the planet, good for people, and good for profits. Now, to be clear, this session is not about having all the answers or covering all the topics related to this huge topic of sustainability and marketing. It'll be part of an ongoing conversation that we as a society have. But we are really interested in ensuring that the conversation about sustainability is always front of mind and creating a forum where we can learn from each other and share best practice, insights and tips to help and support our community wherever you are on your journey towards sustainability. Sustainability is a broad phrase, of course, and we'll talk about that. But for simplicity, we're talking about the three pillars: economy, society and the environment, also known as profit, people and the planet. So what to expect today? In a moment, I'm going to introduce you to our first speaker, Luke Speisser, who will share some thoughts on LANDOR and Fitch's perspective on sustainability across the globe. And then I'm going to welcome Sophie, who's the Executive Director of Strategy in LANDOR, to share a UK perspective on this as well. But we are then going to open up today the discussion to our audience. And I know there are a lot of you out there with, I'm sure, questions to ask or points of view to share. And so I want to make sure we allow as much time as possible for that. And also what I'd love to invite you all to do is make the most of this opportunity to have that conversation right from the start. We have the chat function in Zoom, which allows you all to be keyboard warriors. So come out, make comments as we go, ask questions as we go. There is also the Q&A facility, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen. Please, as they occur to you, put questions on for our speakers to answer, or questions that you think we should all be thinking about together. We'd love as much interactivity as possible. And it's great fun to see where you're dialing in from and what comments you have on this interesting and complicated topic. So to get us started and to make sure that the huge number of people who've joined us today are actually awake, and because we're curious about what you think, we're actually going to start with a little poll. Welcome Alexandra from London. Thank you. It's great to have you here. There's a poll about to appear on your screens asking you a very simple question. For those of you who are dialing in from different companies, do you believe your company truly stands out in terms of what it does on sustainability? Just interested to see what you think. Very simple, yes, no question. Hi, Michelle. Yes, topic I know, very close to your heart. Welcome, people dialing in from all kinds of places. Great to see the comments coming in. So do you believe your company truly stands out on what it does on sustainability? And Kylie, who's managing the event today. We'll share the answer in a second. Just curious to know what the audience thinks. Interesting. So still lots of potential for those listening to do more in terms of standout. I'm sure we'll return to that as we get into the questions and answers. So welcome everybody, really looking forward to the discussion today, seeing what comes out. Please do comment as you go, add your thoughts on chat. It makes it so much more interesting, and I know we'll have some diverse points of view. Don't forget to put your Q&A in chat. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Luke Speisser, who is the Global Chief Innovation Officer at LANDOR and Fitch. Now, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about him first, so he doesn't have to. Luke has an amazing experience, 25 years of innovation strategy and global brand experience. He's worked in top-tier advertising firms, in Havas and in the Interpublic Group, and he joined LANDOR back in 2005, Executive Director of Strategy then, before successfully becoming Managing Director of LANDOR Paris and Geneva and President of LANDOR Europe. Luke is also president of the Association Design Council, the organisation which represents branding and design agencies in France. He's a very respected thought leader and is also a permanent teacher at La Sorbonne, an ESCP in Europe. And he's often a keynote speaker on the subjects of branding, brand innovation and strategy. So a warm welcome, Luke. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Sophie. And hello, everyone. I'm very much looking forward to discuss with all of you on this very critical and exciting topic that is sustainability. So I'm going to do now the share screening. And just, there you go. Oh.
Always the fun of getting the technology started.
Always the fun. Sorry about that. I don't know why this is. Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't know. It worked a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't know why I can't get control on the screen anymore. All right. Now it should work.
Brilliant.
All right. So sorry for this a little bit chaotic start. So I will do together with Sophie a quick introduction on how to shift the paradigm from compliance to business value through brand-led sustainability. And we will quickly go through a couple of key questions. Why sustainability? We will then look at the importance of standing out by doing good. We will then explore how to do actually and how to build good brands. And then I will hand over to Sophie that will give you a great insights on the UK specifically before insisting on how it is important to focus to stand out. So why sustainability? You all know the answer to that question. It's really important because increasingly, and this grows as we speak, customers want more. They want more from governments, but more importantly, they want more from brands, from companies to engage and to do good, not only in the environmental space, but also in the social space. We also know that regulators demand more, and this is not going to stop. This is going again as well to increase. And as a consequence, when you're a business, you need to invest more. And any investment is important, and any investment, needs at some point to get a return. And when we look at climate change and COVID-19, one might have asked, if that had, especially COVID-19, changed the approach to investment. Actually, the key word to keep in mind with those two phenomena, especially COVID-19, is acceleration. It has actually accelerated the need and the request also for long-term thinking and action. It has also really put in front of stage that the world's biggest problems are all connected. And again, has put the stress on the fact that sustainability is not just green. Yes, it's green, but it's more than that. Sustainability, as Sophie was saying, is those three things, you know, planet, people, and profit. And I'm insisting on the profit dimension because very often it's overlooked and it's almost a shame factor. Actually, it's very important because otherwise, without that third P, which is profit, sustainability can't be sustainable. End of story. The good news is that there are big opportunities in sustainability as well. First, it's a huge business opportunity. According to WPP Sustainability Report, it's 12 trillion business opportunity that it shows. And also more on a focused level, we know, and there is evidence, facts, that brands, companies that put sustainability at the heart of the business and at the brands witness by far faster growth and higher profits. So, in a nutshell, good brands are good business, but of course, like always, there is a but. So a question for you all, and don't overthink that, right? How many memorable sustainable initiatives can you attribute back to a brand? So there is a poll now coming up with some answers, and I let you some time to answer this question. All right, so it's quite a few, but I'm quite, yeah, it's quite interesting to see that most of you would be able to quote between 1 and 4, which makes that panel quite an exceptional one because, and Sophie will show that also for the UK market. Actually, what we're witnessing is a green sea of sameness in the sustainability space. And look at all those pledges. You know, many companies, many great companies have committed to very, very ambitious pledges and actually are delivering upon them. So don't get me wrong, this is great, right? But this is only from a business standpoint, a part of the game because this increases and improves standards, which are great. But actually the problem is that everybody is somehow making the same pledges depending on the category, right? And as a consequence, very few, a little bit more according to you, but actually very few brands are truly, truly standing out in the space of sustainability. And the overlooked piece in sustainability is actually brand. Brand actually is the way to add on top of relevance, which is all those pledges, right? Making those brands all more relevant. Brand adds a very important piece, which is differentiation. Brand actually is the one thing that meaningfully drives differentiation and change. And most importantly, and this also is fact-based, we all know that, right? Brand drives return of investment. So in a nutshell, if we want to really, truly shift the paradigm from compliance to business value, sustainability has to be brand-led. So how do we do that? The good news is that wherever you are on, and whoever you are on your sustainability journey, you can build your brand to be good. You know, whether you are a big brand, small brand, a global brand, a local brand, or, you know, a heritage brand or a fresh new brand, there is space, you know, to engage in the sustainability journey. So this is a framework we've created at LANDOR and Fitch, which is a very non-judgmental, a very exhaustive approach regarding, you know, how brands, companies are doing in the sustainability journey. 2 axes, sustainability central to your business strategy and sustainability central to the brand. Of course, in the near future, meaning 10 to 15, even 20 years, you know, sustainability and most of the brands will be on the, you know, top right space, right? To be not only relevant, but also different. But actually, you know, when we're working on good brands, there are 4 different ways to create or improve, you know, and develop good brands. Let's look at the first one. The first one is about transforming existing brands. So brands actually who have been there for quite a while to make them future-proof. So that's what we did actually when we actually pioneered brand-led sustainability together with BP. When we put sustainability at the heart of the BP brand 20 years ago, right? When BP CEOs at the time, Lord Brown, engaged the whole company into shifting beyond petroleum. It was a very, very courageous shift at the time. There were some challenges, but overall, that shift hugely benefited to BP. And we're actually continuing because it's a journey, right? When it comes to sustainability, we're still helping and we're continuing helping BP reimagining energy. So that's transforming the core brand, right, of a company and making it, embedding sustainability into it. But then there are other ways. When you are kind of a beginner in sustainability, there is a space for you as well. And that's what we did for the International Volleyball Federation. And we actually created a notable brand-led sustainability program, which is called GoodNet. And we created a brand for that. And GoodNet is actually an upcycling program that takes abundant fishing nets out of the oceans and transforms them into volleyball nets, or what we named GoodNet. And the beauty of that project is that it's not that old. It's been launched barely 1 year ago, well, in March 2019, the very first event. And in a few weeks, only a few weeks after the launch of the GoodNet program, first, the program mobilized the whole worldwide volleyball community. And that's the first thing you want to do, right, with a sustainability program. You want to get your people behind you, right? You want them to give them a meaningful fight, which resonates with what you stand for as a brand or as a company. That was the first achievement. But most importantly, it absolutely dramatically and spectacularly raised the profile of the Volleyball Federation within the International Olympic Committee as being one of the most forward sustainable federations, which was important. And also, cherry on the cake, it enabled the GoodNet program to enter right away into the United Nations Clean Seas program, which was a huge achievement. So things to keep in mind here is that even if you've not started, it's still time to start. If you start from a brand-led standpoint, you can have a very efficient ownable program right away. Another great way, if you're a heritage brand, right, or a brand that's been there for quite a while, to really dramatically accelerate your business and your sustainability profile is to actually create what we call sustainable native brands. And that's what we did for Coty. We created actually a brand which is called We Do, and we created it from zero to market in 18 months. So that's quite fast for a pure innovation, right? And the We Do brand, actually, everything the We Do brand does is an act of kindness. We put those acts of kindness at the heart of the business and of the brand. What we mean by that is that basically from its packaging, which is made entirely of recyclable materials, to its products that are both vegan, cruelty-free, and to its website that runs with less energy, everything is an act of kindness. And the brand forces everything and everyone to act upon that. It's been launched in 2019 in Sweden, kind of a torture market for sustainability for those who know the market, right? And the sales are spectacular. It reached the 124 index versus a very ambitious already 100 objective. And also it dramatically boosts the reputation of Coty as a whole. Then we're also working with startups that keeps us at the edge, right? So those startups are sustainable natives, right? From a business standpoint. So we help those startups who have sustainability at the heart of the business to also put sustainability at the heart of the brand. That's what we did for a financial fund, which is called TEO, which only supports triple bottom businesses, people, planet, profit, right? And we actually created a brand that is as sustainable as the business model, because the brand doesn't exist by itself. It only exists on the paper, on all the things of the companies that they're supporting. If the condoms, because they're supporting the condom companies, the brand TEO only exists there. So it doesn't consume any material. It's purely sustainable. What we're doing as well to keep us sharp is to create our own sustainable native brands that we're trademarking. So here is an example of a brand that we created. And it's not only a brand, it's a business model. It's called Less. And it enables to sell a very good, delicious organic wine for half the price of its normal price if it were retail. How do we do that? We sell the wine in bulk. So these are 4 different ways to create good brands. So overall, our approach to do that is very simple. We first put sustainability at the heart of everything we do. So that's the overall process. So from brand strategy to brand performance, we're building good brands through brand-led sustainability. And what we've done, because it's not enough, we've augmented our core approach with a whole suite of sustainability-focused good offers that again range from brand strategy with good activities, good wrap, to good packs, to good spaces, good behaviors, good management, internal guidelines, have to be sustainable as well, and good performance to measure performance of the brands from a return of investment standpoint all along the line. So that's the overall introduction. Now I'm handing over to Sophie Lord, who will take you through a very insightful look at the UK. Over to you, Sophie.
Great, thanks so much, Luke, and lovely to speak to you all today. So let's take a look at the UK and uncovering the opportunity there, because, as we all know, as marketers, branders, value builders, it's absolutely vital that we really understand the context that we are working in. And what we're seeing is a really, really fascinating context and opportunity for us all. And I think the first thing to state very clearly is that whilst we are seeing sustainability is a global movement, everything that Luke's spoken to is about global truths. But we have to be very aware that it is also a highly localized conversation. And so as marketers, we just have to be aware of that. What actually matters in Germany doesn't matter as much in the UK. Globally, we know that climate change is of paramount importance, but actually how that is translated into local mindset is very different. And we have to be very aware of those nuances, because this is a highly emotional and cultural narrative that is emerging. Secondly, again, and I've deliberately put this point right at the beginning of the next few points I'm going to talk through, because I'd like all of us just to grasp what is being said here. UK consumers are at a point of having incredibly good intentions about doing the right thing. So here we know 70.3% of the UK population say they try to buy products packaged in an environmentally friendly way. That's better than the global average. However, in the UK, we have a real and vast intention to action gap. So we see that only 22% actually take regular day-to-day actions. And this intention gap really seems to be our cultural truth in the UK. And I think as marketers, as innovators, what a fantastic brief for us all to really understand how we can achieve change and answer the emerging needs of the UK mindset and consumers. But of course, there's more. So what else is going on in the UK? I'm going to talk through four, I think, really key insights. Firstly, is that we, as consumers, actually are exceeding regulation in terms of our needs. So this stat from the grocer, 2/3 of UK shoppers want non-recyclable packaging banned. We don't have that regulation in the UK. So actually a fascinating point for us all to understand the impact of that. If as brands, we are just ticking the box of regulation and compliance, we're not answering what consumers need. Secondly is, let's be very clear that sustainability is now reaching out into far wider and more significant shifts in the role of business. And what we are seeing is really a new kind of activism beginning in the UK. This isn't talking about Extinction Rebellion. This is actually talking about shareholders setting very new expectations to corporations to behave in a more responsible way, in a more sustainable way. And we've seen quite a lot of this over the last year, and this is undoubtedly going to be one of the biggest changes we see as shareholders demand positive change from business. Thirdly, and again, this is very much taking Luke's learnings about the impact of COVID-19 and accelerating the conversation, what that's actually meant in the UK. And we find this pretty fascinating, that really in the UK, it's accelerated our expectation of what brands and businesses should be doing. So these stats are from WPP, who have consistently asked the UK throughout COVID what they expect businesses and brands to be doing. And this is quite fundamental. Consumers are telling us they think brands should stand up and help. And actually, if we understand the implications of that, they are giving permission for business to have a far wider remit in the worlds of us all. And I think it's very interesting in terms of the UK perspective on this. We're actually asking businesses to be responsible, not necessarily political, but responsible business, which is a real shift from where we've been in the past. And I think as part of that, and it's from the same point of acceleration, is, you know, in the UK, I think we've very much seen, and I think this is the next slide if possible, Luke, you know, we have lived and breathed the amazing work of David Attenborough, and we have seen sustainability as being very much an environmental challenge. COVID has also opened up the fact that we have deep societal challenges in the UK. And actually, if we're to look at the two faces of sustainability in the UK at the moment, I think we'd say it is, of course, environmental, but it is also deeply social and community-led by the amazing work that Marcus Rashford has been doing in the last 6 months. And so I think that probably leaves us onto the final point. And again, if we're to take one thing away, you know, overall, the UK is looking at a set of unmet expectations. 84% of UK consumers believe that environmentally friendly purchase is important to them, yet 68% cannot name a single environmentally friendly brand. And if that isn't a platform and a plea for innovation, then I don't know what is. What a fascinating stat for us all to understand and learn from. So if the UK is really seems, you know, a story of unmet needs and what a great brief for us all, how on earth do we start to translate that into action? How do we start to help you find your focus? And we believe, you know, this really is about focus. That's absolutely vital. To transcend the green sea of sameness, we need to start to use brand to understand how we can stand out in the market with brand-led sustainability. And of course, the difference that's going to create. So as Luke said, we have, you know, a suite of methodologies that we have designed specifically to achieve brand-led sustainability. I'm just going to speak very quickly through Good Activities, which is an incredibly powerful methodology that we use to help clients and help us find the right focus to pay back to society, but to pay back to brand at the same time. And how we do this is this. You know, we look at the SDGs and we understand through the brand and through your purpose, which are going to be the most relevant for you to own, which you have permission to own, and which could genuinely help. However, we don't stop there. So while we do evaluate the SDGs, really importantly, we start to look at the mix of activities which are going to increase your brand asset score, because every activity we want to create needs to have a positive impact to brand. And of course, once we've understood that, it is all about ensuring that that positive impact on brand is going to be a positive impact simply to your profit and your performance. So we model the implications of that change on the future potential it will change to business. And by doing that, of course, we have shifted the paradigm from investment to performance, which is what this is all about. And one very quick story of how we've applied that thinking to a global, pretty phenomenal brand, Tommy Hilfiger, who we worked with as a cross WPP team, is a really fascinating story in redefining a brand and making them future ready for sustainability. And of course, it would be very easy in the worlds of fast fashion and the huge noise around fashion to say, actually, well, let's own environmentalism or let's own supply chain. Actually, Tommy Hilfiger are going for parity on those points. Where there is a unique point of difference is in something relatively unexpected. Tommy Hilfiger, the poster boys for Hampton's 80s white America, exclusive America, have actually, through understanding the impact they could have by focusing on the 10th SDG about reducing inequalities, have created a standout brand transformation by adopting a hidden jewel and elevating that in their portfolio, which is the adaptive range, which is focused on helping people with disabilities, but not just saying this, by actually creating innovative, incredible Tommy Hilfiger branded clothes, which have paid back hugely to brand value, to business performance, and vitally to innovation, in terms of, we now know we have, I think, 6 or 7 patented innovations which are now being made real. So we've seen, through sustainability, Tommy Hilfiger become a radically inclusive brand and fit for the future. And Luke.
Yes, thank you, Sophie, for that. So in a nutshell, right, that's the doggy bag. How can we shift from compliance to business value? So five takeouts. First, sustainability is a must, right? And it's not just green, and it's important. And the Tommy Hilfiger example shows that, right? You can stand out on not necessarily on green only. Sustainability, is not only a constraint, it's an opportunity to innovate. And that helps us, and it helps all the brands we've helped and all the clients we've helped to really, really push and stand out. That's what really drives return. Of course, everybody somehow has jumped into the sea of sameness. But beyond that, everybody now needs to find their focus. To get there, the great way and the North Star is the brand and the brand purpose. And ultimately, if you embrace brand-led sustainability, then we know it's a powerful way to grow your business by doing good. So that's it for as a seed to feed the discussion. And now I can't wait to have a discussion with you. Over to you, Sophie.
Thank you, Luke. There are so many Sophies here. Thank you, Luke and Sophie. Some great stories, stats, and definitely food for thought. And I can see lots coming through on chat and questions and answers around this. Just a couple of questions from me listening to all that as well. What do you think, Luke, perhaps you can talk about, what's the key first step for any brand who's looking to embed sustainability properly, more at the heart of its strategy, especially as they're planning 2021 and beyond? What would you say the first key step should be for them?
Well, the first step, the first thing is there is no, as you might have seen and understood from what I've shared right very quickly, is that there is no right or wrong, brands when it comes to sustainability. We're fighting against that, because what counts is that people progress on the sustainability journey. That's very important. So the very first step is that to look at the, that framework I shared with you, which really looks at sustainability across 2 things, right? Sustainability, how your business, sustainability, how your brand, and look at where you are, right? And then where you want to go. And we've done that with most of the clients, right, we've worked with. And first, it's a very non-judgmental framework. You can be on the bottom left, that's okay, right? But then what counts is how we get on the top right. And it will not be overnight, right? But if you are a heritage brand, then the first thing is to say, okay, how can we make our first steps? How can we make our moves? How can we look at sustainability as an initiative before putting it really at the heart of the brand, at the heart of the business, right? Yeah. And then you can look at, from a portfolio standpoint, you can start playing with your portfolio like we did for Coty. Coty had no real sustainable native brand in the portfolio. They've decided to create one. And again, 18 months, it might be long. It's not that long to create something that dramatically boosts your reputation and also will be at the forefront of your business profitability for the years to come. So that's a nice way to look at it, right? To say, okay, we're going to improve the current brands, but at the same time, we're going to accelerate by creating sustainable native ones. Yeah. And then, of course, there is a whole different ways of using that map. But basically, what we do is that we just prepping and we're doing a workshop with the clients to get there and have a very informed and very pragmatic discussions.
So there's a pragmatism there, but there's also that sense of, you know, aiming for progress, not perfection, seeing it as a journey, and that thought of actually working out which of your brands within the portfolio can most accurately help.
And I would just add, the very first thing we use, you know, the starting point is the purpose of the brand, because that's the North Star, right? And that's really important, because when you start with that, then you can look at, okay, what's the ambition? Where do you want to go with that?
Yeah. And I think one of the things we've seen, and I think, Sophie, you touched on this, is there are so many sustainability issues and the key SDGs. How does a brand and a marketing leader choose which one to tackle and what's most relevant for their brand purpose then?
Well, if I take that one, then it's a case of, there are so many SDGs, and I think every piece of research shows us you can achieve impact when you focus, right? So if you try and do everything for everyone, it's not going to work. We don't build brands that do everything for everyone. So let's take that learning we all know and really apply that thinking. And of course, there's going to be some SDGs which are very much regulation focused, that you have to do. What we're looking for, you know, to build brand-led sustainability are those SDGs that you can really own. And sometimes it's actually a very easy link, because by understanding a purpose and then actually looking at your purpose through the lens of the SDGs and how you could activate it, sometimes that exercise is actually enough. Sometimes the purpose is the North Star, and it can be activated for sustainability in that way. Right. Other times, you know, we need to, and I think, you know, as I kind of touched on with good activities, really start to measure and give certainty to investment and impact. Because again, sustainability at the moment is a conversation, has been a conversation, certainly around CSR, doing good. Sometimes it's difficult then, if that's the conversation, to get traction for further investment. They're saying this is a business imperative as well as a brand imperative, which really is why we use quantitative and qualitative measures to really say it's linked to performance. So that's the journey we like to go on, if that makes sense.
That first point, that question of, you know, which is always a question about leadership, you have to choose, you have to edit, you have to focus, decide on something, and decide, I learned the other day, as a Latin root literally means to cut away, so making some choices there. But then critically, as it always is in marketing and business, we measure what we treasure, what gets measured gets done, so making sure that the measurements are there as well. Okay, and one last question before I'm going to call on a couple of members of our audience to turn their cameras on and ask their questions as well. Luke, perhaps for you, you've always looked at innovation in the work you've done. Do you think that sustainability innovation should be undertaken as incremental improvements or as radical transformations in form and function of products and packaging and business strategy?
Well, I would say both. Right, because again, this goes back to the roadmap that we discuss with clients, because there is increasing pressure to do things right now, right? So you can't just say, well, see you in 2 years, you know, and we're doing things. So very often what we do is that if you take packaging, for instance, right, which is a very tangible example, we look with clients as how to improve the current packaging, make it more future-proof. But equally, what we also working at is that when you change the structure of packaging, and the sea of sameness exists in packaging as well, you have all in mind, and probably you've forgotten, you know, many marine brands coming up with a carton bottle, right? When you look at this shape, very often the shapes are the same, and that's a lot of money, and it's a missed opportunity, because what we do is that instead of just using the material and to be compliant and show, oh, we have a compliant and sustainable material, we're also injecting structural design to really, again, start from the brand and make the design not only sustainable but iconic. So basically what we do is that we're making sure we're having quick wins by making, you know, packaging more sustainable, and also structural change to create new iconic sustainable design. And that is true for packaging, but it's true for everything, for spaces, for workspaces, for everything. You know, when it's brand led, you know, you can make incremental changes, but also you can make more profound changes. I would just add something on what the previous question. I think everything we've done here, all the things we've created on top, right, of a current approach, has been driven by a conversation with the clients. One of the things, you know, that CSO, Chief Sustainability Officer, or CEOs told us is that sustainability is not just something which is a cool thing. It's done by people within the organization. So when you've got 100 initiatives done by people within the organization, they've put their heart into it. So that's why we came up with something which is very, you know, quantitative, because it enables people to understand why we're focusing on that action rather than on the others. And that's absolutely critical from an engagement standpoint, to maintain engagement at the highest level.
To make sure that internally people understand what's happening, and that internal communication.
Why we're doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then to make sure that everyone inside the organisation can keep an eye on where the opportunities are. So you're talking about incremental, the 1% difference that everybody can get behind, you know, actually, and think about it internally, as well as the big game changers. I'm loving seeing the comments and the Q&A coming through. Zoom's made a change. I love Zoom. I think it's fantastic, but they've made a user experience change, which slightly annoys me at the moment, which is a lot of people are putting comments in which are coming to us as panelists, but the rest of the audience can't see. So I'm just going to try and keep sharing them. A lovely point from Kirsty, who's relating to Sophie Lord's points about talking about what's happening in terms of purpose, and actually saying there's such value of being transparent about the journey towards your North Star, being realistic about it. And sometimes it creates more engagement with consumers than actually hitting the goal. Everyone loves an underdog. I think probably in a world where things are more transparent, you know, actually sharing the journey clearly remains an important part of it.
Exactly. We do not need to be perfect, but we do need to make progress. And as long as, you know, we talk in that way, using your brand voice to really show that commitment, you're not going, you know, that's as transparent as you can be, which is so vital in this conversation.
Now, there's a number of questions coming through. I'm going to pick on Sophie Robson, please, to come on the screen, and not just because I want another Sophie on screen, the third one today, just to confuse things, but because I think she's got a great question there for the panel, a challenging question for the panel. Hey, Sophie, are you there? You're on mute and video hidden.
Sorry.
Oh, perfect. Hi, Sophie. How are you doing?
Hi. Sorry to be another Sophie.
Great name.
I actually spell mine with a Y. So
see, she stands out. She finds
exactly. Marks for differentiation. Very good.
What's the question for the panel, Sophie?
Okay, so I've heard you talking. You know, you've mentioned a couple of very big corporate businesses there, Coty and Tommy Hilfiger. And you know, I appreciate what you were saying, but one huge aspect of being a sustainable company, which you haven't even mentioned at all, is employment contracts, and how that really defines a company. Like, you know, I think this is such a huge issue with manufacturing processes, with packaging, with packing. You know, as you said, COVID has highlighted a lot of these issues. And we've got like companies like ASOS and Amazon and Boohoo that have all been kind of come under the spotlight with regards to 0-hour contracts. And I'm sure that like most business models are built on that model. So I was just wondering what your views are and how important you think it is that we address that in the future. Because, you know, it doesn't just relate to being environmentally friendly, but also the longer picture with regards to our health service and what it does to people's mental health. It's just a big issue in regards to sustainability.
Absolutely, I can start answering that. So as you've seen, right, and again, you know, we've got very short time, but definitely the questions you are mentioning are absolutely critical. And we address them as well, right? That's why we're having quite a holistic approach to sustainability. And again, what we're saying is that every company has to deliver upon the 17 SDGs, because those SDGs embrace everything you said, right? It embraces environment, it embraces diversity and inclusion, it embraces gender equality, and all those SDGs, that's why they're here for companies and everyone, the society, to improve. So every company needs to improve on those elements. Our point is to say that there are things where that you need to improve, and almost we call it point of parity, right? You need to show that you're improving, but then and what we've witnessed is that many companies are trying to do everything at the same time. So they're improving on everything, but the one thing that they're forgetting is that what can we truly own? What can we champion? Because action, if you look at people, what people are asking is action, is, you know, from a brand and company standpoint, they ask brands to solve problems. So if you look at Tommy Hilfiger as an example, and you say big companies, but it's true for small companies. When you look at FIVB, the International Federation of Volleyball, they have a very limited budget. I can tell you that there was no money to come up with a big sustainability policy. To be honest with you, we did it pro bono. We proactively went to them and said, you need to have to do something. You know, you need to do it and to own it. And that's why the difference with just saying, okay, we're going to give money to an NGO and make things progress. What we did is that we said, let's start from a brand. What can you own as a brand? You know, and the GoodNet program was born like that. And that's the program for the 5 to 10 years. And honestly, if they deliver upon it as they want to deliver, you know, the ghost nets are 10% of the yearly plastic pollution. It's a huge problem. So if you think that one company can do that, even with a small budget, and then create, because it's all creating a movement, right? It's not the federation that does the job. It's actually all the people from the communities that are jumping in because they believe in it. So I think what we're saying is that you can really change things, and at the same time, there's no reason why, as a brand, when you invest into those things, why it couldn't pay back, right? As something which enables you to truly stand out and show the people that you're truly solving a problem. And if you do that, like Tommy Hilfiger, then it becomes also a sizable business. There's no reason why it couldn't be. And the big problem is that if companies focusing only on delivering on compliance and looking at sustainability as a cost, then at some point it will stop. You know, it will become a purchasing thing. You know, how can we be more sustainable at the lowest cost possible? That's not what we believe should be the future. We believe the future should be into investing things that have a return, but things that really go beyond compliance.
It's interesting actually, as we talk about this here, you know, it's a reminder that the responsibility of marketing leaders right now has gone so much further in that they're representing the broader business, you know, and that understanding that the brand is more than the product, that it is everything that happens. So these are, you know, really important questions for everybody to look at. And again, sustainability covers so many important parts of that desire to be a positive force in the world, doesn't it? Very tricky. Thank you, Sophie, for coming on and joining us here today. It's a tricky one, isn't it? And anything to add from you before we go on to the next question?
Me?
Yeah.
I was hoping to hear from the Englishwoman. I mean, I've been an employer myself, and I just feel like at the time when I used to have people working for me, I was kind of a bit more ignorant, but I feel like our society has moved us as small business owners to the direction of that's the only way to be able to have people employed. And therefore we've ended up into this situation now where more and more 0-hour contracts are the only option for employment. And, you know, just, I understand that, you know, there's the environmental things and all of that, but really the employment issue is kind of at the heart of it all. So
yeah, I do think you've
that was the kind of point I wanted to be addressed.
No, and you've hit on, I mean, essentially, as sustainability comes to the fore, it highlights the crisis of capitalism, right? And we have to decide, this is all those big conversations around the Great Reset and all those very deeply philosophical challenges, we now look at how we've got to this point. But I do think in terms of shoots of hope, etc., sustainability is now a business imperative. And shareholder activism is not going away. When you've got the leader of BlackRock actually saying this is the most important shift we are going to see, when people stand up in the boardroom and say, no, I don't agree with that policy, treat people better, treat the planet better, then you have to think, you know, from everything we see, that it has to change, right? And we as marketers and we as consumers can help make those changes. Not to sound hopelessly optimistic, but I think there is room for optimism in this debate.
Good.
Thank you. And thank you, Sophie, for coming to join us today as well. I'm conscious of time, so if it's okay, I'm just going to try and get a couple more quick questions in for today. We won't be able to answer all the brilliant questions, I'm afraid, today, but we'll try and find an opportunity to respond to them all afterwards. Chris Kelly, if you're there, perhaps you'd come on and share your question for us all today. You're on mute, Chris.
Oh, is that working?
Perfect.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hi, how you doing? My question pretty much leads on from what you've actually just covered there.
Perfect, perfect. You've got it all planned.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you think that there needs to be a sort of fundamental reframing of what actually constitutes success and growth if organizations and brands are going to have a meaningful impact on the climate crisis?
I mean, I would say yes, and it's happening. So, you know, as you see, the sustainability indexes which are coming out, whether it's the Dow Jones, S&P, businesses are now being judged by investors on not just their compliance, but their ambition to build better, essentially, to, you know, make the SDGs become true. And they have to deliver on profit as well as other measures. So I think moving to that form of measurement is happening. It is a huge conversation actually in North America at the moment, which I believe is going to hit our stock market very soon in terms of, and actually how we start to manage our brands as well. So it is, I think this is the point where that conversation is going to become much more vocal.
And to add on that, there are financial models, you know, like triple bottom line, which are not just emerging, they're becoming bigger and bigger. So measuring a company not just by the financial performance, but also by the performance from a social standpoint and environmental standpoint starts to become not the rule of the game, but it's getting more and more traction, because that's the way you measure at some point, you know, how a company is virtuous and performing, not just on money, but also on people and on planet.
You've also got things like Eric Ries, founder of Lean Startup, who's now got the long-term stock exchange. You know, there's the change in the measurements, and I think there's often people talking about a change in language as well. You know, growth versus flourishing. So there's some interesting things going on. Chris, thank you for joining us today. Have you found it interesting?
No problem. Yeah, it's been brilliant. Thanks very much for the talk. Very insightful.
Brilliant. Great to see you. I want to squeeze in one last question. Danielle, are you around? Danielle Longo, you've got a question for us. Are you able to join us and share your question? Yes. Don't forget to turn mute off.
Sorry, let me, hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Danielle. Nice picture.
Hi, no, sorry, I was switching the light on. So the question I think feeds exactly into the previous two, and in your opinion, how can advertising agencies and, you know, marketing professionals can switch the conversation from a demand-driven economy to a purpose-driven economy, and how can you actually work with brands that are not just greenwashing their messages but are trying to willingly change their business model to achieve sustainability? Because I think that's a major element.
I can start on this one, but basically I love that question, right? But thank you for asking it. First, the days of greenwashing are over, because, well, I can tell you they're over. There's still companies who try to greenwash and try, right? But when I say they're over, is that more and more, you know, people, you, me, we all have access now to, you know, to check if a company is greenwashing or not, right? And so that's the first point. So what we're witnessing, I can only tell you, you know, at LANDOR and Fitch level, what we're witnessing. We don't have clients coming up to say, can you put green in our logo, right? That's the caricatural greenwashing. Can you just, you know, show, you know, do a little bit lipstick on a gorilla? No one, because everybody, and what pushes everything, either whether you are virtuous or not, you know, it's just a business reality that, you know, if you are greenwashing, it's going to get back at you and backlash at you very brutally. So the truth is that the backside of that is that people might be afraid of moving. You know, they say, oh, I had a client tell me, we can't, you know, move because if we move, we'll never be sustainable because we're doing this and that, which is not perfect. That's the key thing to shift now, is to get clients, brands to say, you know, as long as you're doing, not talking, doing things, you know, in the right direction, this is what counts. Be transparent, show your ambition, and show how you get there. And that's the critical thing. And but that's the shift we need to operate with our clients, to say, you don't need to be sustainable native, right, to really be allowed to do anything on sustainability. You have to improve. As long as you improve, and truly, that's the key.
And if I could just add one tiny point to that, that this is such a fascinating discussion, because I think if we just flip it slightly and say, look at the unmet consumer needs that we know are globally. People are saying they want something different. So us as marketing professionals can actually say, what a platform for innovation. That essentially is what this conversation is about. And it's why we talk about sustainability as innovation. And yes, we have guardrails because we have SDGs to work to and a positive impact to create. But people want different. Businesses need to answer that. And then there is this beautiful thing called advertising and marketing and brand strategy sitting in the middle that can flip that conversation to one of innovation and then growth. And then you create something quite different. And I think that's how it helps, in my mind, open up the opportunity.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Danielle, for joining us and for the question. Anything to add? Oh, he's gone. He's on there. And actually, we are running out of time, frustratingly. Thank you, Danielle. I mean, I'm listening to all this and thinking, you know, it's a really useful reminder for us all that these issues are both global, but also need to be addressed locally. The point you made earlier, Sophie, and there's a comment come through from Sonia, who's thanking everybody and saying she feels far away geographically. They're dialing in from Argentina today, but also in the possibilities of embracing these new ideas. Well, I think the other thing I've heard today is certainly that a reminder that there is a great acceleration going on, partly because of COVID, but partly because these conversations are being had. And my frustration is we can't answer it all and we can't work through it. We don't have enough time today, but we will keep the conversation going. We'll keep sharing the answers to all of this as well. And I certainly feel optimistic. The fact that these questions are being asked and these conversations are going on. So 2 quick things. One is, first of all, could I ask Sophie and Luke, could you give us in the style of a tweet a quick one last takeaway point for everybody listening? One thing.
So one key takeaway for me and is really is that I think sustainability is such a huge topic and it raises so many different perspectives that the only way to tackle this is to harness, like never before, collective intelligence. So it's not just the marketer's job, it's not just the brand's job, it's not just in the brand's company's job, the CSO jobs, or it's, you know, kind of everybody's job. Everybody can contribute. So it's really harnessing the power of collective intelligence and working all together. And this is not just kind of a we are the world kind of thing, right? Statement. It's really, I mean it, because it needs a lot of experts, specialists to really tackle the whole thing. If you just take a subject, which is supply chain, you need to bring in a lot of many different people to really—
These are huge challenges. I mean, and that comes back to the heart of what we believe at the Marketing Society, which is when we come together, we can do so much more. And we are facing big challenges for us as marketing leaders that we need to work together on and borrow the brains of other people and think together. Sophie, one very quick last sentence for me. before we run out of time?
I guess it's this, you know, in times of turmoil, and we are in turmoil, we know all of that, but what does actually history tell us? That in times of turmoil, if you innovate, you can fundamentally change things.
Innovation is key, and the marketing role is also, we forget sometimes when we talk about marketing, we focus on communication, but it's also about innovation. Thank you so much, Luke. Thank you so much, Sophie. Thank you for everyone for listening. I've got 3 things to tell you about before we close today. Other opportunities to bring together this great community that I'd love you to know about. So first of all, we at the Marketing Society are supporting the Advertising Association and lots of other industry bodies with the launch of Advertising Net Zero tomorrow morning. There is a session at 9 o'clock. Please come and tell us what you think of today's session. And please do join the Advertising Association and their launch of their initiative to look at climate change within the advertising industry tomorrow morning. The link is in your chat. Secondly, for those of you who are interested in the power of social and how marketers underestimate sometimes the power of social, we've got a really interesting event coming up on the 2nd of December at 1 p.m, looking at 2021 trends from 11,000 leading marketers looking at social marketing. And last but not least, please everybody, join us for a bout of optimism and fun and getting together on the 25th of November. We've got a huge number of people joining us for our evening of celebrations, connections and conversations. It's going to be uplifting. You'll get cheese, chocolate, drinks and comedy as part of the evening, plus the chance to be involved in our choice of the brand of the year and announcement about our fellows. We've got some really good entertainment, so we'd love you to join us at that evening. If you haven't booked your place, come and do that later. Thank you very much, everybody. Any feedback, any further feedback, please do let me know or tweet us or get in contact with anybody here. We love hearing from you. Hope you've enjoyed today and there's been some food for thought on this massive conversation. Really, really appreciate you all being part of it. Thank you and goodbye. Stay optimistic, stay connected.